The intro gets easier, right, over time, and we're not going to struggle with it every time?
No. We'll get it right every single time.
All right.
Have you started recording yet?
I am recording.
Oh, shit. Perfect. Yes. Hello. Systems in play. We're going to talk about games.
James. We're going to talk about our... James Baxter. We're going to talk about our good friend James and all of his hijinks this week.
Yeah. Let's see what he's been up to.
Yeah. How's James?
So last time we tried to have structure, but we didn't quite have structure. Let's start with a question. Yeah?
All right.
I found a question on r/True Gaming. When does addictive gameplay become a bad thing?
Okay.
The poster, the Redditor said, have you ever uninstalled a video game because it was too good? Until recently, I hadn't. He's talking about Balatro for he's got a whole story here, a whole wall of text talking about how great Balatro is.
Topical.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on that? You ever been so addicted to a game that you felt that it was bad for you?
Yes. So this was around 2013, probably somewhere in there. I had just gotten a smartphone that had internet capabilities. Previously, I had to go to there wasn't a Starbucks in my town, go to the library and download games on my iPod Touch and then take them home. Finally had internet access. Finally had a place that had internet access and service where I could actually utilize that access, which I know you know a thing or two about. And I downloaded this game, random. It was called Triple Town. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Triple Town, no.
So
if I Google it, am I going to find anything?
Maybe. The developer has a handful of well-known games.
Oh.
I don't know, I'd say well-known, but really popular mobile games. Triple Town it's not quite a sliding block puzzle, not sort of a match 3, I guess. So you have this 10 by 10, 20 by 20, something like that, square. Mm-hmm. And the square starts out initially empty. And every turn you get a item that you can play. And typically for the first 10, 15 hands, you're just going to get grass that you can play. 3 patches of grass next to each other form a bush. And then 3 bushes placed next to each other form a tree.
So it's a merge game.
Yes.
Okay.
3 trees form a house. 3 houses form a bigger house. 3 bigger houses form a castle. Now, the difficulty of the game comes from occasionally you will draw a bear instead of a blade of grass. And the bears not only... you can't merge them with anything, but they move around the board every turn. And it's very annoying. And the only way to get rid of a bear is either if you have an item that specifically gets rid of bears, or you can trap them in a circle of some kind, to where the bear can no longer make any moves. At that point, you can... the bear dies and becomes a gravestone. 3 gravestones equal a church, but it's a lot harder to get 3 of those in a row because the bears move all on their own. It's a fairly innocuous game. There's not that much to it, but man, the absolute grip it had on me for a month. All I could think about was Triple Town. In every waking free moment, I was playing Triple Town. And I mean, this was back in the era where most games didn't really have a lot of microtransactions. I think it was a 99-cent upfront game. There wasn't anything stopping me from just playing over and over and over again. And eventually it got to the point where I'm like, this is not good for me. I'm laughing at myself, self-aware enough at that time to be like, yeah, this is not good for me. This is becoming a problem. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not thinking about anything but Triple Town. I gotta get rid of this game.
Oh, man.
And I uninstalled it, and then a handful of years later, I reinstalled it, and had the exact same response that I just could not stop playing Triple Town. Cut to like 10 years later, I have my fiance Leslie install it, and it's the exact same situation. She's in medical school. She's trying to study, trying to make time for all this, and just Triple Town is ruining her life.
What's that? We have a word from our editor.
Yeah.
Oh, I think he changed his mind.
He is also addicted to Triple Town.
Aren't you? That's funny. That's like right in the era. I think it was right in the era. Me and you, like specifically, we were little talking about how, man, this is the future of games. Everything's going to be on a mobile device from now on. Like, everything's going to move to mobile. Console games are going to die out slowly because of the mobile craze.
Yes.
But they did not. They did not.
Yeah, that was like the promise of mobile games, that, why would you need anything else if you can just have it in your pocket? And there were some legitimate attempts to like make them good at the time. Mm-hmm. And then, it just became infinitely more profitable to throw out some crap with some funny skins.
Yep.
What could have been?
I had a similar experience around the same time playing Angry Birds.
Oh, I see.
I think you introduced me to Angry Birds, I think. And my God, did I play a lot of Angry Birds.
Did you ever beat it?
I don't remember. Probably the first one, I feel like I did. Mm-hmm. I think I did. But unlike you, I never got to the point. I never got self-aware enough to realize that it was damaging every other aspect of my life.
Fair.
So eventually I beat it and moved on to Angry Birds 2 and then the Star Wars one.
Yeah.
And then lost interest promptly afterwards.
I liked the space one. Not Star Wars, Angry Birds Space. There was like a kind of a Super Mario Galaxy type of, each planet had their own gravitational pull. That was cool.
Yes.
That was cool. I actually went and they re-released that recently, and about a year ago I played it. It was really fun. Like those games hold up. They're really fun.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there's a reason they took off. Yeah, there's a reason there's a movie of them now. But yeah, no, they were really good, and we thought that would be the future of games. But
yeah,
God, go to a mobile game store now, and just look at this.
Yeah, there are a couple of gems in there, but they are few and far between.
They're so hard to find though, with just the amount of ads you get too from random terrible looking mobile games. Oh. That's a whole topic in itself. Oh
man, I go feral when I see an annoying ad. I like almost lost my cool today because I'm trying to play a game and it's a full screen ad that pops up and I can't find the little X to close it. And you know what they do? They like make it one shade lighter than the black than the black background, and it's just a hunt and peck. And if you don't click the X, you're gonna open up the App Store launch page, and you're already down. Oh man, it steams me. Yep. It makes me so mad.
Oh, the tricks that advertisers pull, man, it's amazing.
We're a couple years away from stuff like that. Hopefully, not being legal. That feels like it's breaching something. I don't know what.
For real. But if I had to say there was a game where I did become self-aware that it was hurting me, it would have to be Slay the Spire.
I know a thing or two about that.
Yeah, so if y'all remember, we talked about Slay the Spire in episode 1, and Sam said...
I think you mean episode 0.
My bad, shoot, episode 0. And Sam said, I need to play that. That kind of happened, didn't it?
Yeah. We had a little session earlier this week where CJ kind of walked me through the basics. Not that it necessarily like needs to be walked through, but we just wanted to play it together. And number one, I made it all the way to the final boss on my first try. Granted, with CJ's help, but I felt pretty dang pleased with myself.
You got some pretty good draws for a first run.
Yeah, and I have not been able to stop playing it ever since. If I lose my job, well, we know who to blame.
I take full responsibility. But that was the first game where I've had to stop. Like, if you ever get in those loops looking at like posts on Reddit or looking at TikToks or something,
Mm-hmm.
I've been in that loop with Slay the Spire where I'm like, okay, I have to put this down. I have to think about what I'm doing next.
Oh, Slay
man.
the Spire Doomscrolling.
Yeah, that's a thing, and I hate/love it.
Man, I feel it. I knew this would happen. I knew I would like the game, and I do, and it's consuming me because it's just so fun. It's the way that the levels are broken up into, I don't know, 10-minute max chunks makes it so easy to be like, oh, I just drew a new card, and I got this relic. I mean, if I want to see how that works, if that is good for my synergy, I might as well do one more. I mean, it's just 5 minutes. And then it's 9:00 and I haven't edited any of the podcasts like I said I was going to.
Oh, I felt that on a spiritual level. Oh, yep, that's Slay the Spire. If like we could convince you to play any game, please play Slay the Spire.
Or don't, unless if you have an addictive personality.
So to answer your question, when do addictive games become a bad thing? When you turn them on and 3 hours pass and you just don't realize it.
Yes. Or when 3 hours go by and you're acutely aware of every single second that's going by and you don't stop anyway.
Yeah.
That was Triple Town for me. It felt like a drug. This silly little game with the bears.
Oh man.
I hate those bears. The artist uses the bears that he draws for that in some of his other games, and now I can't play them because I hate those bears so much.
That's why this looks familiar. I'm like looking at pictures. It has that very 2010s mobile game art style, but those bears look so familiar. So yeah, that's why they look familiar. They're in a lot of little thumbnails on the App Store.
Yeah. So I wanted to dig a little bit more into Slay the Spire while we're on the topic.
Please do.
Because, I mean, I've unlocked the last character today. So I'm ashamed to say that I probably have like a solid 15 hours in the game after playing it for like 3 days.
Oh man.
It's very good. And I think it's really interesting how each character is so different than the others. And they all have their own deck as well, outside of the colorless cards. But in a weird way, it's almost like 4 completely separate, not completely separate games, but it's a completely different style of play with completely different prioritizations and mechanics. It's just so compelling. There just feels like there's so many possibilities.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking today about like the Roboto.
Let's call them red, green, blue, and purple because I don't remember their name.
Okay, Robot is green.
Robot is blue.
Oh wait, yeah, Poison is
Yes.
green.
Yeah.
Okay, so blue is focused on these like charges and orbs, and I'm going through and I'm looking at my potential cards at the end of every round, and it's so there's just so many possibilities, even with that one character. Like I could put 40 hours into the game without touching any of the other characters, and that's awesome. Like that's so cool. I feel like there's so much potential. And I'm not even, like, I'm still unlocking cards for the character as I go through the game. I'm still kind of, like, playing with the base deck.
Yeah. Oh, man. More on the robot, the blue guy. He's not my favorite character, but he's really good in that the first guy you play as, you unlock them in a specific order, by the way. There are 4 characters, and you unlock them red, green, blue, and then purple. The red guy is all focused on damage and attacks and like the strength stat, and then you get to the green girl and she's all focused on dexterity, which upgrades your defense that you can put out, poison, and like skills and stuff. So you're thinking, oh wow, okay, so we have an attack character, a skill character, what could the third character possibly be? And they pull like this wild card where you have an entirely new thing to think about, which are his orbs. And like none of the other characters have this, but the blue character has these orbs which every turn they have a passive ability, and then you can also, what is it called? You can trigger their active ability, which is usually just like twice as much as their passive or something. So like the lightning orb that you get as your default relic.
Right.
He pulls one up every time you start a battle, and every turn it does 3 damage passively. You don't have to do anything for that. If you trigger its active ability, usually it destroys the orb, but it'll do like 8 damage to a random character.
Yeah.
It's an entirely different mechanic to think about, and it's like so genius because the first 2 characters give you this idea of what the game is going to be like. You're like, what could they possibly do for the third one?
Right. And it's the same for the fourth, like a completely different character. Hers is like a stance change character, using a phrase you mentioned earlier. So she has the calm stance and then the wrath stance, I believe, or rage, something along those lines. And the calm stance doesn't do anything inherently, but when you switch out of it, you get 2 extra energy for that turn. And then when you are in the wrath stance, you do double damage on all of your attacks.
Wow, it's so neat.
And it's just, your mind is just spinning with all of the different possibilities that you could do. It very much feels like Risk of Rain to me. From not only the what I like about Risk of Rain is you have options in how you choose your build, but ultimately those options are randomized. So for those unfamiliar, when you start Risk of Rain, you have no items. You're just like a basic character that can shoot and run around. As you progress through the game, killing enemies gets you money, and there will be random chests that you can purchase and will give you a random item. But there are also like these little stations where you can purchase one of 3 items. And that's the point that gives you just a little bit of influence on your build for that run. And it's the same thing with Slay the Spire, where it's random enough that I'm not going to overthink it and try and min-max.
Yeah.
But it's controlled enough that I feel like I can do something with it.
Oh, yeah.
And man, it is so good. It's exactly the type of game I like. And also similar to Risk of Rain, you can get these relics. I think they're just called items in Risk of Rain. I don't remember. You can get these relics that are basically passive abilities that stack up throughout the game. And you get your first couple and you're like, you can be proactive about what triggers when and etc. But by the time you're getting to like the 3rd floor, you have an entire row of items across, and there's just no way of keeping track of everything that's happening. And I'm like, oh, I got 2 extra energy this turn, and I drew 2 cards. I don't remember why that happened, but I sure am happy about it.
Case in point, the ink bottle.
Oh, man.
The ink bottle is an item you can get in Slay the Spire that every time you play 10 cards, it draws another card. I personally never got it because it was like I would play 10 cards, that'd be the end of my hand, and then I'd draw like a really good card, and I'm like, well, shoot, now I have to go through the entire deck to play that. Sam got it on his first playthrough, and I'm like, personally, I never get that. And it like came in clutch 3 to 4 times where he would draw an extra card, and it would be the exact card he needed to progress through that fight. And I'm like, damn you, ink bottle.
It's because I believe in the heart of the cards, and I believed I was going to win, and I knew that if I loved each card individually enough, I've never seen Yu-Gi-Oh! If I loved each card individually enough, I will get the one that I need.
That's how it goes. I've also never seen Yu-Gi-Oh! But that's how it goes. But yeah.
So I have a question for you
Okay.
About Slay the Spire, and there is we've mentioned this before, but like difficulty is a big conversation that we want to have probably over a couple of episodes. Risk of Rain, as I mentioned, is one of my favorite games. The thing that I've noticed about that is it has a hidden difficulty curve as you progress through the game. So when you first start, you only have a handful of items available to pull from randomly.
Right.
But items stack in Risk of Rain. So if you make it all the way to the last level on your first run, you're going to get a ton of item stacks, which in Risk of Rain is like one of the best things you could like. Optimizing for stacks is one of the best strategies for getting through the game. And you can genuinely like just tear through stuff with the Soldier's Syringe, which increases your movement speed and attack rate. you can become a god by just stacking soldier syringe. And when you only have like 10 items available, your chances of stacking soldier syringe is really high. As you play through the game, you unlock more items and the pool gets bigger and your chances of stacking gets lower. I'm curious, as you play through Slay the Spire and you unlock more cards, does that make building a synergetic deck more difficult? Does that add to the difficulty curve in a way, or would you say no?
I believe that it does. I don't know if I played. See, I played for so long, and I've had most everything unlocked for so long
Fair.
that looking back to when nothing was unlocked is like a thing of the past. But yeah, I think that it kind of does, honestly, because as you unlock more cards, usually you're unlocking some good stuff, but like also there's things that just don't synergize well, at least in my play style. So yeah, I would say as you go on, that yeah, you do accumulate too much stuff, as it were.
Yeah. And that's kind of in the individual levels itself, because having too many of a specific card and not really like being very particular with what you add to the deck can be detrimental overall. And that kind of difficulty curve within a round is sort of mirrored in the entire progression system of the game, which is really cool. I'm sure that was an intentional choice to an extent.
Yeah, I think they call it deck bloat. I don't know if that's like a legit thing. I don't know if that's what it's actually called, but in roguelike card builders, deck bloat is a thing you got to avoid. Is just like cramming your deck with useless stuff.
Yeah.
Which is another thing I love about Slay the Spire. I played another Slay the Spire like called Pirates Outlaws. It's a mobile game.
Oh yeah, you told me about this one.
It's okay. It's not bad. It was a time waster when I was on a trip once, and the one thing I really noticed about it, and probably some other roguelike deck builders, is you can't skip when you're like given a choice of cards at the end of a fight. You have to pick a card, like no matter how bad they are. I think some games will give you a reroll of the 3 cards you can pick, or however many cards you can pick if it's not exactly like Slay the Spire. But some games, they don't let you skip, which I really commend Slay the Spire on, because that gives you that just little bit more like precision when you're building your deck.
It's one of those things that when I first played, my initial thought was like, why would I ever want to skip more card better? But even now, I'm like, okay, there are some times that like none of these cards would add anything to me, and that means I'm going to draw the cards that I actually need less often.
Yeah.
It's good design. It's good design, and it kind of goes into that general, you want to have randomness to an extent, but you also want to have enough control to where the randomness feels fair. Randomness is a whole topic that we could go in. And as a Pokemon guy, I have a lot to say about randomness.
Oh, man. Yeah, randomness in video games. I could talk a lot about like random encounters in JRPGs, which applies to Pokemon.
Yeah. Oh, good topics. Let's put that in the notes.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe some podcasts people just tend to like blow through games like, oh yeah, these are the 4 games I played this week. And it's probably not the case. You know, I'll play through stuff and I'm just going to want to talk about it as I'm playing through it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I definitely have a couple more things that I'm going to want to say about Mario Wonder as I'm getting more of that game. I'll leave that as a little appetizer because I do have stuff to say about Mario Wonder at some point.
Yeah, before we get too far off the topic of Slay the Spire, and I know you asked about difficulty, have you unlocked the when you go to click your character, there's like a level down there, Ascension level? Because that's like you asked about like a hidden difficulty slider, that is a hard-coded in difficulty slider. I don't know, I think you have to like fully beat it with all the characters, and then you can start ascending. Like, it gets hard, it gets insane.
Okay, nice. No, then, I don't think I've unlocked that. I think I may have seen the word Ascension mentioned at some point, but that's probably the extent of it.
Okay, yeah. So it's that's what adds to the 100+ hours I have in Slay the Spire. Is just it gets harder and more enjoyable.
Who would you say is your go-to character in Slay the Spire? Who do you have the most hours in?
Oh, the green one, the silent, the poison character. She's really fun. The best thing the best build for me is anytime you can play a million cards in one turn, and she's the character for that.
Yes. Yes. When you play, do you tend to go for like a high energy roll? And I guess like decks can have multiple facets. Do you do a lot of poison with her, or is that not an aspect you explore as much?
I think it all depends on the first floor, or at least the first half of the first floor, what I'm getting like handed to me. Then I try to build from there, you know.
Smart.
I think the first few decks, if I get at least one of the just straight poison cards, or I get one of I think the Blade Dance cards where you get a bunch of shivs, which are zero cost cards.
Yes, those are fun.
If I get some of those, if I get some of the poison, I'll like try to focus on that for the rest of the run. If it's like one of the first cards I pull. I have had success because I think she's the best also in that a lot of her cards are like multi-purpose.
Yes.
Like she has a card that blocks but also gives you a shiv. She has a card that does poison and weakens the enemy. She has a bunch of these like multi-purpose cards, so she's super adaptable. Like I think I've had a lot of success in doing both poison and like playing a bunch of cards at once.
Yes. Oh man, I very much enjoyed doing a poison heavy run.
Yeah.
And just absolutely like suffering, like barely surviving on health. And then my poison procs and it does like half their health in one go.
Yes. Oh, it's so satisfying.
So good.
Anytime, pro tip, and I told you this already, anytime you get into, and it's probably basic math, anytime you can multiply rather than add in the game, it's really powerful.
Yes. I'm excited to play more rounds as the red guy. So far I've done one round with each of the 4 characters. And the red one was really fun. A very heavy damage focus build.
Yeah, I think that the green is my favorite. The blue is fun, but I think the red is probably the most straightforward. I know I said before, just when we were playing the other day, I said he was the easiest. I want to change that. I think he's the most straightforward character.
Okay.
Because a lot of his stuff is just, attack, make a character vulnerable, deal a lot of damage.
Right.
But that said, my favorite build with him is the Body Slam build.
Remind me what that one does.
So the Body Slam card does, however much defense you have, it does that much damage.
Oh, wow.
So if you get Body Slam, and then there's another card called, I'm just explaining Slay the Spire builds at this point. There's another card that lets you keep your defense every round instead of losing it. So you can build up like 100+ shield and then do that much damage once you draw a Body Slam.
That is insane.
That is my favorite build with the red guy.
That honestly sounds super fun. There was a card that I had that I really wanted to do. I really wanted to find a way to use, and it's basically when you kill an enemy, you do its number of health damage to every other enemy on the field. And for the final battle I did on the round that I won with the green girl, I had 2 like 300 HP. One was like a circle and one was a square or something.
Deka and Donu.
Yeah. A lot easier than the wolf I had.
I believe they're the easiest third level. For me, they're the easiest third level boss.
They didn't really have any tricks. I mean, they were hard, but
yeah,
it wasn't anything crazy.
Yeah.
But man, I was just imagining like if I could get this all the way to the end. Oh my god, that would be incredible.
That I know exactly the card you're talking about. I try to keep it, even when I'm not running a poison run, I still try to keep that in my pocket for when you have a bunch of enemies and it's horrible. But yeah, no, Slay the Spire is a great game.
Yeah. Oh man. I'm very excited to play more. I'm excited to talk about it more.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I'm going to have a lot to say about this one.
Yeah, get ready for us to talk more about it next week.
I'll definitely have more hours in it. There's nothing I can do to stop myself.
Same.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question for you leading into the next topic. So I wanted to talk about environments in video games and kind of what those mean mechanically, just different biomes and areas that we have found memorable over time. Even like specific towns that have stuck out to us in video games. That being said, the question I have for you is, what city, town, biome in a video game would you want to live in if that was like a real place in the world?
Oh,
Everything
man.
else about the world is fine. Like, you can't pick Skyrim and ride a dragon. You can't pick Pokemon and have Pokemon. But if there's just an area that just you really vibe with, what would that be?
Oh man. One time I built a baller house in Minecraft. One of the most scenic mountaintops ever.
Oh,
Right there. If I could have a house like, if we're being real, right there.
oh man. What big question. What flavor of wood did you use?
Ooh, oak. I'm
Nice.
basic. I used oak. Yep, that's probably where it'd be. Overlooking a little NPC village, just so I'd have a nice
Nice.
food source. Yeah, that was.
Plains
Perfect.
biome?
No, it was like it was like next to a river, and there was like a savanna. It was
Oh, man, the
beautiful.
savanna biomes are gorgeous.
Yeah, but I still used oak because I avoided the acacia trees.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember what those are called.
Yeah,
Um,
but that if we're being real, there.
yeah, I mean, no, that's, you literally built that for yourself, and everything about Minecraft is so just vibes all the way down. Bonus points if the music just continues to play throughout your life
Yes,
forever.
yes, yes. What about you?
You know, you would think that me having asked this question, I would know my answer to it.
Joke's on me.
Um,
Merlin, where would you live if you could pick any fictional town?
he would pick the blanket village from Adventure
Oh
Time.
my God, yes.
When he lives in the blanket universe, Merlin would live there, and he would be a demon that just ripped everybody apart. They would hate him. He would knead the dough on them, and they would all have little hole marks where they bled out.
I would also choose that Merlin if I didn't have to wake up from it and remember my entire life, like Narnia style.
Oh man, can't stop myself from talking about Adventure Time.
Oh yeah, no,
Love that show.
that show's gonna come up a lot. It was the inspiration for our first video game,
Wait, Cat Squared?
Caterpillar.
Oh my God, yeah, you're right. It's Jake. Why am I so dumb?
So we entered a. You can find this on itch, by the way. We entered a game jam on itch.io, and the theme was cats squared. Right, that was the whole theme.
Yes.
And we had no idea what we were gonna do, and we were thinking, well, we could just this is the first game we're ever gonna make. We could try something as simple as Snake.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam was like, "Do you remember that episode of Adventure Time where Jake's like stretching through a maze really long, and he like has to like cross over bits of himself at points?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, yes!" So our game that we made for the game jam was a Snake-like, where you have to go through a giant map, slowly stretching yourself around and trying to avoid yourself. But check that out on itch.io.
Yeah. And the reason it fit under the category Cat Squared was every time you got a pellet, instead of increasing by one segment, you squared your current segment in
Yeah.
length. So if you're 2, you go to 4. If you're 4, you go to 16. It was a very literal and mathematical take on the topic.
It is Caterpillar by Cranberry Sam.
Oh,
I don't know if you want to give that. We can cut this
No.
Okay.
No, it's fine. All right, my biome. I had to think about it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm bad and I didn't think about my own question. Okay, my answer, unsurprising, is from Pokemon. Not from one of my favorite games. It's from Sword and Shield, and it is the village Bologna, which this is my first time saying it out loud. It's like a little mushroom village, and you get to it by like going extremely deep into the heart of this forest. You're finding lots of poison types, like cool grass types, and you get here, and it's like perma-dark because the canopy of trees is so thick that light doesn't reach. It's just like a constant moody light. And it's lit up by all of these big, like bigger than houses, glowing mushrooms everywhere. And all of the houses are kind of, I'm not an architect, but kind of remind me of like a English cottage. The region is based on Britain. So it's like an English cottage, white with like the dark wood and the like kind of thatched looking roofs. It is just such a cool vibe. I love mushrooms just kind of as an aesthetic. I'm kind of mid on them as a food, but I've always just been fascinated with the fact that a mushroom is not a plant and it is not an animal. It is something entirely different, and they're really weird and they're cool, and some of them actually do glow. And imagining living in this village that is just not that far off from what could be in reality. Like, there was a point when we had mushrooms as big as trees. There are mushrooms that glow. They just don't glow quite as bright as these, but it just feels that close. And I don't know. There's when things are super, super fantastical, there's a point where it's like, okay, well, that doesn't seem realistic or plausible. This is just right on that edge of like, it could be. This is so close to something that could be real, and that for some reason makes it more appealing to me.
I just pulled up pictures of it. It is really pretty.
It's what it is, in my opinion, like the best part of that game in terms of graphics. It's super cool. And you have like lots of cool mushroom Pokemon there too. I think you can find like Paris and Parasect and Fungus, Amoongus.
Ooh.
I'm not making those up.
I love those Pokemon, whatever they are.
It's a mimic mushroom where the top of its head looks like a Pokeball.
Oh.
And you pick it up you pick up a Pokeball in the overworld thinking it's an item, and it's actually a fungus or an Amoongus.
Fungus and Amoongus, they're evolutions of each other?
Yes.
Hell yeah. Oh my god, I love them. They're really good.
Yeah, I love that vibe. It's very probably inspired to some extent by Alice in Wonderland, if I had to imagine. I believe he is from the United Kingdom. I don't know if I am just now considering the fact that I don't know if there is a difference between United Kingdom or in Britain and Europe. I know Europe is like the overarching thing, but forgive my ignorance.
I don't either. So no worries.
He's from that area,
Yeah.
and I imagine that is probably like an inspiration they pulled from when designing this village. Right. Super cool. Also, the Pokemon Center glows, which is just a nice little touch.
Oh, man. See, my point was when you said Pokemon, in the back of my mind, I'm like, wait, aren't Pokemon regions just based on real world places?
Yeah.
But I mean, no, yes. I love this. This is amazing.
And that kind of leads me into like a environment that I wanted to talk about in general, which is mushroom biomes, which again are not real, unless you consider like the forest that has mushrooms in it. But it's not like a mushroom biome. Off the top of my head, Minecraft has the Mushroom Islands, which are super iconic and cool, and I don't know why they exist. A lot of things in Minecraft are just because of a bug.
A bug or a meme or
a meme. I'm not sure what the story behind those are, but I remember the first time I found one and just being like shocked at just this cool little mushroom island being out in the middle of nowhere. And then the mushroom.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Peak character design. Cannot get better than the mushroom.
Love me a good mushroom.
Another instance of not explicitly mushroom, but in Risk of Rain, there is the fungal caverns, which is the second environment you go to. It's just like this big, dark cavern full of both mushroom environments and mushroom enemies that are really annoying.
It has one of my favorite bosses, the what is he?
The Wisp?
Is it the Wisp? Is it the giant Wisp? Am I thinking of a different one? It's the giant jellyfish thing.
Oh, the Wandering Vagrant.
Wandering Vagrant. That's not the mushroom biome, is it?
It can appear in the mushroom biome, I believe.
Like when I think of that's when I think of mushrooms in that game. That's what I think of. the wandering vagrant.
Oh man,
I love him.
it's something about a mushroom biome. It's not just like, it's cool that it exists, but it's a meme in the like dictionary sense of the word meme, where it's like a topic that is kind of passed on culturally without ever being formally defined necessarily.
RimWorld taught me that.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. You were telling me about that. Are there any other mushroom type environments that you can think of?
Besides like Terraria,
Oh yeah, Terraria has
has a really pretty mushroom cave where everything's glowing. It's like so beautiful, and it has like the mushroom guy NPC that you can find. Right off the top of my head, though.
Baldur's Gate 3 has an awesome.
Oh, yeah.
In the Underdark, it has a really awesome, not just like mushroom. I mean, it is kind of a mushroom environment, but it is a race of mushroom people.
Yes.
Sorry to the D&D guys out there, I do not remember what those are called.
I forget too.
They're really cool, and they all have like this fungal hive mind where they're all communicating with each other. And one of the quests is about a mushroom man who basically lost the rest of his hive mind and is now just a singular guy and is kind of ready to die. Feel pretty bad for him, but man, it is a cool quest.
Yes.
Yeah. So not to put you like totally on the spot, but are there any other fictional biomes that you can think of that just kind of stick out to you?
Fictional biomes. I don't know about biomes, but like in terms of environments, I like the giant bridges in games. The giant medieval, like Dark Souls 3 has a giant bridge, and I think before you're even on it, no, you do get on it a little bit at first, but before you even get to it, you're like in a swamp, like thousands of miles below it, looking up at it.
That's sick.
I love those. Shadow of the Colossus, I think, was the first one I saw like that. The giant bridge leading into the world of Shadow of the Colossus.
Something about a bridge is very evocative and just evokes this feeling of transition and meaning in a weird way that I can't necessarily put a finger on. Breath of the Wild has a really cool bridge whenever you first get out of the
the
Great Plateau.
The Bridge of Elden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that one's also in a couple of the other games, I believe.
I think it's Twilight Princess, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Don't quote me on that.
I played that level in Smash Bros. A lot. That was one of my favorite ones.
my only connection to that. I've never played Twilight Princess.
Same. But it's really cool. It's a really cool, just like you get out of the Great Plateau and you're exploring and bridge, this big bridge, and you could jump off the bridge and go in the water and maybe survive. I mean, if you have enough stamina, maybe you have a stamina potion. I love that. Trying to think if there's another cool bridge.
Back to Minecraft. It's the one thing that I always build. If I leave a world, if I stop playing Minecraft, there's at least one bridge somewhere in the world before I'm done playing. Same.
They never look quite like I imagine them in my head, though.
Oh no, definitely not. There's obviously the big bridge in Gotham, which is supposed to be like the Golden Gate bridges in Arkham Knight. One you can't actually go on. I don't think you can go to it in Arkham City, but you can see it.
Yes. I was actually I was very recently playing that game and tried to go over the bridge and I could not. They were like, you really need to stick around and save these guys, don't you?
Yep. Bridges in games, man. I don't know what it is. I love them.
Yeah, very iconic. I wanted to, in this topic of just environments, and maybe environment isn't the right word because environment is evoking nature as a whole. I'm kind of wanting to talk about place and just places that are evocative and are interesting in like a mimetic sense where they appear frequently, and also things that have interesting mechanics tied to them.
Okay.
And I think a big aspect of that is also the music that goes with them.
Yes.
And I think kind of getting the ball rolling with that. One place that still just really sticks out to me as like just an iconic, memorable place is Toriel's house from Undertale.
Yes.
You walk in and you're going through the tutorial and all that. You finally get there, and Toby Fox's music is just so comforting and incredible.
Oh man,
we actually played that game together around the time that it came out for the first time, and I remember just like kind of being floored by just the stark transition from being out in the ruins to being into the home.
yeah, because it's like it's all dark and like you're going through this tutorial and there's not much there, and then you get to her house. It's like really warm and it's homely, and she offers you pie.
Offers you pie, and like you fall asleep and you wake up and the pie's there. There's not even really anything specific about the home. I think the use of colors, I believe everything before that was a lot more like dark purple and blues, and then her home is just orange and yellow, and there's a fire going, and they do the thing that good RPGs do, in my opinion, that is just give you lots of things to interact with, and let you exist in the space for a while. Because otherwise, if there's nothing to do, you're just gonna like exit out. You're just gonna walk through and be like, okay, this is cool. There's so many little details and things to touch and interact with that you want to stay. And that's the biggest thing, is when you have to leave.
Yeah,
you feel that. It's very, very well done in how evocative. I gotta stop saying evocative. Just the feelings that it pulls from you.
And it's like it's pushed another level forward when Toriel herself like stops you, and she's like, "Don't leave. You have to fight me if you leave." And you're like, "No, I don't want to fight you. Give me pie."
Yeah. I remember you and I were like, "What if we just stopped playing and stayed with Toriel?"
Yeah. We just live here now.
Yeah, I have no issue with this.
Yeah. I think her house likens back to like the Earthbound opening, and I think, as someone who hasn't played too many Pokemons, most Pokemon openings are like you in your room, and then you go downstairs. Your mom's like, "Well, it's time. You're 10 years old. Time to go out into the world."
Yeah, get out of here.
Earthbound sort of does a comical thing where like not Mother 1, but Earthbound, the one that I released in America. It starts where you're Ness and you like go downstairs because you hear a noise and your mom's awake and your sister's awake, and I'm like, well, you better go out there because you're the man of the house. Your father's not here. So you take your really brave dog and you go out, and just in the beginning though, you start at your house. There's like, I think there's a SNES console because you're playing it, or a NES console because you're playing it on the NES.
Right.
And there's like, you go in, you have to get your baseball bat, you have to like get ready to go out into the real world. It's great. I think Toriel's home like is trying to liken back to that, because Undertale is like a successor to Earthbound, right?
Yeah. It very much is like, I think by design it is a spiritual successor to the Earthbound series, and that you're so right. Like, just a home in general, I would consider like an environment in a game, and
A meme.
yeah, it's a meme.
Yeah.
And it's the starting place of a lot of RPGs, especially ones where you play as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, you start at home, and that's where you venture out from. And for whatever reason, your dad's never there. Never really got that. But, your dad's not there. You're just, it's time to go. It's time to go out and be on your own. Like you said, Pokemon is a big one for that. Although I will say, the thing about the Pokemon homes that I like is the thing that Earthbound did is you always have like your console in there, whatever console you're playing on, not whatever console you're playing on. It's whatever the current, most recent Nintendo home console is. So I was going back and I was playing Sun and Moon, and it's like, oh, here's your Wii U. It even has a gamepad with a screen. You're one of 10 who own one.
And I could be thinking about Pokemon when I say that there's a Ness in Ness's home, and I might be, but I don't remember entirely. But yeah, I think it's like, it's that idea that games were made for kids. So a lot of games you start as a kid in a house leaving. It's like every
Yeah.
kid's fantasy is like, I want to go out into the world as a kid and
Yeah.
just be the best I can be. So I feel like that's why a lot of games are like that, and it's genius. It's genius.
It is. And it's just, I think over time, just so many iterations of the home, it has an inherent kind of quality to it of, I mean, partially pulling from everybody's lived experience, well, a lot of people's lived experience of having a home and just the years and years of this existing and being a thing. I don't know. There's a sort of magic to it.
It really is. Let's. Did you have any more to say on this before I go somewhere else with this?
Environment specifically?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to stick to environments.
Okay. No. Let's move on.
All right. I was going to say, let's go to the other side of that coin, sewer levels. There's one in every game, and they're always bad. Have you ever come across a good sewer level?
Ooh. I can't say that I have. I can't say that I've played through a lot of sewer levels, to be honest. Or at least if I have, they're not jumping to my mind. My brain is screaming Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, even though I have not played a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game. I've seen some gameplay of, I think it's Shredder's Revenge. Were there any in particular that you were thinking of?
We can cut this. I had no idea where I was going with that. I had an idea where I was like, oh, we could talk about the bad levels in games, but you're right. They're not memorable. They're bad for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't really remember any sewer levels.
I'm doing everything in my power. My veins are popping out of my head to not say that they're crappy.
And you said it. Yeah. I think if I remember, Dishonored had an okay sewer level. I think.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I don't remember it, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But I do remember it existing.
I do remember it existing. I do remember being terrified of the rats in that game.
But yeah, I guess we could move on to some other environment then. Did you have any more in mind?
I did want to talk a little bit more specifically about how environments affect gameplay. And I think an interesting way to kick this off is, again, I can't stop myself. Pokemon has a mechanic in the battle system where you can change. There are a couple different flavors of it. But, it started out as the weather mechanic, where you can you can use rain dance and it will make it rain, and that changes. It increases the attack power of water type moves, and it decreases the attack power of fire type moves.
Okay.
In the rain, the move Thunder, which is a low accuracy move, does 100% accuracy. And there's different flavors of these weather conditions, which are rain, sun, snow, and sandstorm. Mm-hmm. These tie into environments. Number one, because in the games themselves, you go to, a rainforest and it's going to be constantly raining there. Mm-hmm. And that affects, kind of the strategy that you have to have for fighting in that area. You go to a desert, there's going to be a sandstorm. In the more recent games, they introduced the idea of, it's called a field. So you can have, or terrain, that's what it is. Terrain. You can have a grassy terrain that appears, which anything touching the ground during that, while the grassy terrain is active, will heal a small amount of HP at the end of every turn. And they use this in a really interesting way. In a really interesting way sometimes. So in Pokemon, starting with when they switched to 3D, they added a gimmick for every generation. The big one that most people know and most people liked the most was Mega Evolution. Then after that, they did Z moves, and then for Sword and Shield, they did Dynamax. And Dynamax kind of brought in the ideas from Mega Evolution, where it was like a form change where you got stronger, and combined them with the Z moves, which was just a strong move you can use once a turn. When you Dynamax, you become like this giant version of your Pokemon. Some have an actual form change, but all of your moves change into like a handful of simplified moves. So based on their type. So if you have a rock type move, that becomes like G-Max Rockfall or something. They all have dumb names.
Oh, I see. I see.
And that move causes rocks to fall. It does damage or whatever, but it also triggers a sandstorm. And that is really interesting for like competitive play and strategy. So now you have to like, sand does chip damage to everything on the field that is not a rock or ground, maybe steel. I think it's rock or ground type, but rock and ground types boost their defense by 50%. But your opponent could activate like G-Max Rainstorm or whatever it was called, and that would trigger the rain. And so in Pokemon for a long time, there's been they're called weather wars, like changing the environment and changing the field conditions to kind of build certain strategies around to build certain strategies around these conditions being active. And they're utilized in the main game as far as like a bit of environmental flavor. But they're really interesting from like an actual competitive stance and what they do. And I'm curious if you can think of any other instances where the environment actually plays an effect on the game. And I might be stretching a little bit to call like these essentially just, like field battle conditions, environment, but I feel like it fits. I feel like it's, related to the environment, and especially like with ultimately stuff like this is just flavor added on to a mechanic. And in this case, it's environment flavored.
Before I answer that, I actually had a question about Pokemon.
Yeah.
You said that this has been a thing for a while?
So the idea of like weather and building strategies around weather conditions has been a thing since basically since they started like making competitive Pokemon an actual thing.
So I get my question is that why one of my few reference points to Pokemon, is that why Pokemon Stadium way back in like Smash Bros. Melee like changed environments every so often because of that?
I think that's probably part of it, because what they had a water one, they had an ice one, they had a ground one. That was around Melee, so I think the idea of weather conditions were a thing, but competitive Pokemon wasn't a thing at that time.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a good point.
So they definitely had it around before, like competitively, I guess. And I've seen very few, if any, episodes of the anime, but I remember as a kid, the stadium, when they went to tournaments and stuff, also like shifted environments, and I thought that was cool as a kid.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like their way of taking that feeling and bringing it into the games. I think after like the first couple of generations, Gens 1 and 2, the anime took off and got super... Well, even after Gen 1, they did Pokemon Yellow, which is literally just like a retelling of the anime in game form. They knew that the anime was popular, and they knew that was like the touch point for a lot of kids. So I think going forward, there's been, just a push to try and bring the feeling that you get watching a battle in the series, bring that into the battles IRL or in the game. And weather is a big part of that. If you're on an icy field, it kind of makes sense for there to be some sort of mechanic happening that changes that has an effect, Otherwise, it's just a piece of paper that is going over your background and doesn't do anything.
I think then to answer your question, you said what games like have that where environment changes the gameplay. I think that I can think of a lot of examples, and I think that if you're going to have a game take place in multiple environments, it's almost imperative that those environments change the gameplay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just backgrounds, and that I'm of the mindset that anything you put into a game should serve the gameplay itself, should be there to serve the game itself, rather than just put it there to be there.
Right.
And that for example, Skyward Sword's stamina system. Have you ever played Skyward Sword or seen anything on that?
I've seen a bit of gameplay. I've seen some videos where people talk about it. I have not played it myself, though.
I'm not going to go on a tangent then.
By all means, I can follow.
Okay, ergo, Elden Ring has stamina, and you swing your sword, it uses stamina. You run, it uses stamina. When you're outside of combat, your stamina bar disappears from the UI because it doesn't matter. You're not there's no importance to running out of stamina while you're just walking around.
Right.
And you have basically infinite stamina when you're running just anywhere. Skyward Sword doesn't do that, and you always have stamina. And I think it's even for the small things that don't really there's no point in them having the stamina bar there besides being an annoyance. It doesn't add anything to the gameplay, and I question its existence. But yeah, I think in terms of environments affecting gameplay, Breath of the Wild is a good example. You go to the desert, you got to change your clothes. You climb up a mountain, you're going to slide a lot. If it starts raining, you slip and you can't climb a lot. Anytime there's an environment change in a video game, if it's a good game, it will affect the gameplay in some manner, even if it's a small manner.
Yeah. And I think the best ones use that as a way to get you to strategize and get you to think about not only the world but the mechanics within. It is a sort of a silent tutorial guiding you on how things, not a tutorial, but just it's just pushing you to play a certain way. Ergo, Breath of the Wild, if you're going into not Mount Doom, Elden Fire, if you're going to the volcano, and it's hot, you literally cannot go there. There is no way you can survive for any length of time, because when you're in that area, it is an active volcano, and you're taking constant chip damage from it being a literal active volcano with lava on the ground.
Cut to my crazy running in there eating, what is it, the hot chilies or the cold chilies that keep you cool for just a little bit, making it all the way to the town.
But when you get to the town, you're gonna have to do something. You can't stay there forever. You can buy armor, which is one mechanic that the game has. You can go buy a potion, which, save money, but it's a limited thing. It just forces you to interact with the systems in the game, but not if you go into this town, you have to use this. It's not telling you to do it. It's just putting you in the situation. It's using the environment to put you in a situation where you have to use the mechanics of the game.
Yeah, so when you're talking about environments in games, usually the first thing that comes to mind is temperature, right? If it's too hot, it's too cold, you got to change how you play.
Right.
And we've already named, in Breath of the Wild, when it rains, you slip a little bit when you're trying to climb. That kind of goes against my argument earlier when I said everything should serve the gameplay. It's kind of just annoying. And I think that Tears of the Kingdom fixed that, right?
To an extent.
Okay.
To an extent. You can... Basically, they made it more like the other mechanics where you can mitigate slipping in the rain by getting anti-slip potions. And they work by... I think when you slip is a random chance, and I think it reduces the chance of you slipping, but not entirely. You can get a piece of armor later or you can get a set of armor later in the game. If you upgrade it all the way, then you can truly not ever slip in the game.
Okay. Oh man, that's good because I firmly remember being in Breath of the Wild halfway up a mountain and then it starts
man.
raining and I'm like, well, I just got to sit on this ledge for a while now. Great gameplay. But what I was saying earlier is usually it's temperature is what you think about when you're thinking about environments in games, and then there's that rain thing. Can you think of like anything else that environmental wise that forces you or adds something else to the game?
I can think of one big one.
Okay.
Water.
Oh yeah.
Not just rain, but like water. Water levels are infamous.
Yeah.
For being usually not very well done.
Mm-hmm.
But they're important. They're in a lot of games, and it's one of the like. I think temperature. They tend to be like, okay, we want you to play in this way now.
Mm-hmm.
Water tends to be like, you're going to play with a different set of mechanics now.
Yeah.
You know, like Mario games, you're underwater and your jump is completely different. You can swim upward infinitely. Cheap Cheeps, which you could formerly jump on top of, now you can't. Fixed in wonder. You can actually jump on them underwater now.
Good. Yeah. Don't mean to cut you off, but it changes the game so drastically. Where some games water kills you because they don't want to like they don't want to implement all that. Notorious, I think Red Dead, the first one.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
I remember Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
You can jump off a building 19 stories and land in a bale of hay, but you touch a single molecule of water and you are dead.
Yep.
Sonic, another one that's also kind of, I think they kind of build that into the lore.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge Sonic guy, but from what I understand, it's like Sonic's character is he can run fast, but he doesn't do water.
That's so funny. Red Dead also builds it into the lore.
Oh, really? Is it just you can't swim?
Yeah, Red Dead. Okay, spoilers for Red Dead and Red Dead 2. In the first Red Dead, you're playing as this guy named John Marston, and throughout the game, you can't swim. It instantly kills you. In Red Dead 2, you don't play as John Marston until the end of the game, and you can swim until you play as John Marston. Once you're playing as him, you step in the water, he immediately starts drowning.
That is so funny.
Really great game design. So they explained it as, he just can't swim. That's why he dies in the first game.
Not to tangent too much. I want to get back to water stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a big moment in Red Dead. I have a lot of hours in Red Dead. I've not played the stories. Like I said in the first episode, I love just running around and doing stuff. And I got a lot of fun out of that lasso. So I'm very familiar with the game, but I know that there's and again, spoilers for Red Dead Redemption 1. There's the moment toward like the middle end of the game where you unlock Mexico.
Yes.
And that's like a big environment thing.
Oh my God, yes.
I thought maybe you have something to say about that.
Yeah.
And if not, we can cut this.
Oh man, we could talk about Red Dead forever. I remember playing the first Red Dead, and I've never played a GTA game. To this day, I don't know why. It's the same reason I've never watched a Star Wars movie. It's because they're so popular, and it's funnier to say, no, I've just never played that or watched that. My reference for these big games was very small when playing the first Red Dead. And you beat the first section, which is like Texas, and you're like, oh man, the final boss fight's probably going to be in Mexico because they've been talking about going to Mexico. It opens up like the same size of the Texas part you're on, an entirely new map that's completely different. All the NPCs are different. It's so good.
It's a big moment that I've heard a lot of people talk about, and I definitely want to go back and play that game at some point, experience it all for myself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I want to be there for that. We got to record that.
That would be fun. I would really enjoy that. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of hours of me catching people and hog tying them and trying to see if I can tie them to the railroad tracks. But, we'll see if we get to the story.
That's the good thing about Red Dead. Breath of the Wild, great, solid gameplay. Story, take it or leave it for me, honestly.
Same.
Red Dead, great, solid gameplay. The story, it'll bring a tear to your eye. It's really good. I love all the characters. I love the world. Great game. That said, I'm a guy that grew up watching Westerns with my grandpa, though, so biased.
Fair. I've never been a huge Western guy, mostly just to spite the rest of my family. But I'm older and wiser, and I'm willing to give them a shot. And I feel like Red Dead would be a good intro for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So back to water levels.
Oh yeah.
Like infamously mid. Infamously
Yeah.
mid. Are there any good water levels you can think of?
Ooh.
I'll let you simmer on that, and I
Yeah.
can say that in Mario Wonder they added so Mario Wonder has a mechanic where you have badges, which are basically like level or not level, like power-ups or like mechanical changes that you can have, but you can only have one per area.
Right.
And for water levels, they have the dolphin swim. And basically what it is you get like a dash underwater where you swim forward, and it's a very satisfying animation where they do the thing that good swimmers do, where they like flip their body around like a dolphin, and they go super fast, and it's just the right amount of acceleration, and then you stay at your peak speed and you slow down. It is just so satisfying. I could click that button over and over again, and it's like popping a fidget toy. It feels good to do.
Yeah.
And I genuinely looking forward to more water levels in that game because they're so much more fun now. Whereas before I dreaded playing the water levels in Mario. I do everything I can to skip them.
I feel that, yeah. I don't know if I would consider this good for its gameplay, but the water levels in Donkey Kong Country have some of the best music in video games ever.
Yes. To cut to my YouTube history, that's just hundreds of hours of like DK water remixes.
Yeah. Shout out to Grant Kirkhope.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, is like despite water levels being pretty mid mechanically generally, tend to have just some of the most iconic, relaxing music of any game. Like you could find hundreds of playlists out there of water level music from games.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, the rest of Donkey Kong Country is like this uppity, it's cool, and then the water levels just like angels came to the earth and started singing, and this is the water level aquatic ambience.
Yes.
I can't explain it, but you're right. Yeah, so many great water level soundtracks. The first Kingdom Hearts, or the second Kingdom Hearts. My bad.
Tell me more.
So the water level in Kingdom Hearts 2 is infamous. The first one, it's just sort of weird. It's weird to control. No one really liked it. It's the Little Mermaid.
Okay, yeah.
So you're running around with Ariel fighting Heartless, and it's weird to control, but you get through it. It's not the worst, but it's not good. So Square Enix saw this, that no one really liked that level. In Kingdom Hearts 2, the water level, or the Little Mermaid level, is just a rhythm game.
Oh.
It's just a rhythm game the whole time where you're singing once or twice. I think you sing a song from the show.
Okay.
And other times it's just their own original songs that aren't good.
Oh.
And
original Kingdom Hearts. Amazing.
So it's, you get to hear Donald Duck and Goofy's vocals. It's so good and so bad at the same time.
I love it. I love that. It's interesting. They're just like, no, we're not doing this again.
I know. I don't know. That said, they did a pretty good, I guess this isn't a water level, but the Pirates of the Caribbean level world in Kingdom Hearts 3 is like one of the best parts of that game.
Oh, no. I think that's like a good thing to talk about in general. So how do the mechanics for that work? Are you steering the ship?
Oh, yeah. Kingdom Hearts 3's Pirates of the Caribbean world is probably the best Pirates of the Caribbean game out there right now. You steer the ship, you have big ship battles, and you fight like giant flying Heartless and stuff. It's super cool. It's super cool.
Oh, I feel like water, like for everything that can be said about underwater levels, there are some incredible levels about being on top of the water. Levels and games in general.
Oh, yeah.
I know that you are a particularly big fan of Wind Waker.
Yes. Oh, my God. Best Zelda game ever. Just being on a boat, looking off in the distance, seeing a tiny little island, thinking, man, I want to go there. And then you go there.
Yeah.
Best feeling ever. I love Wind Waker. So much nostalgia.
Music.
Oh my god, the music. So much nostalgia for Wind Waker, man.
It's yeah, very very much like underwater is ethereal and ambient and like angelic in a way, and then on top of the water it's like, oh, we're gonna play a jaunty little tune
Yeah.
up here.
It's like adventurous and exploratory and like unknown. I love that so much.
Yeah. Another kind of in that line, the first 4 or 5 Assassin's Creeds were all very much landlocked. You touch water, you're dead. And then Black Flag came along.
Black Flag, yeah, yeah. That I may correct myself. That is the best Pirates of the Caribbean simulator out there. Black Flag. So the Assassin's Creed games went 1 through all of Ezio's games good, and then they've been like mid ever since then, except Black Flag. Black Flag was amazing.
I have not played much Black Flag myself, but I've watched a lot of other people playing Black Flag. I'm going to be honest, and this might be sacrilege to some people. I don't remember a lot of the music from Assassin's Creed. Is there like a specific vibe while you're out on the ocean?
Oh yeah, you get your crew to sing shanties.
Oh my god, that's
it's
right.
like it's like the GTA radio, but with sea shanties. I believe, because there are a lot of like sea shanty memes now. I firmly believe it was Black Flag that did that.
Oh, 100%.
That brought that to the forefront, honestly.
I do remember even like before those were a thing, I remember there being like a couple of my friends who just sang a lot of sea shanties randomly, and I'm like, oh, what a quirky, fun thing that you did. And then they told me about Black Flag, and I'm like, okay, it all makes sense now.
Yeah, it was, and I also think it was one of the last ones they like. Their story was good. I liked all the characters. You get to meet Blackbeard. You get to meet what's it? The one pirate that's a girl that pretends to be a boy.
Oh,
I forget her name. And you get to. It's all the characters are great. It was one of the last few where I still think they kind of do it where they try to make your assassin meet like real life historical figures.
right.
But like it hasn't felt the same since Ezio meeting Da Vinci.
Oh man, Ezio meeting Da Vinci. Me being like, I don't know, however old I was, 12, and just being like, oh my god, it's Da Vinci, fangirling. I didn't care about Da Vinci before this, but something about seeing him on there made me freak out. And then getting to ride all of his inventions around the little spiral helicopter. It was amazing.
Yes. Oh man. Before we get too far from Black Flag, I want to point out the diving bell levels.
Oh yeah.
Did you never played it? You said you watched a little. Did you ever see a diving bell level?
I think I saw one.
I think generally they weren't liked that much, if I remember. I don't know. I could be wrong. I really enjoyed them.
Okay.
So you get in a diving bell, which is like an ancient diving suit. It lowers you down and it depressurizes you on the way back up. And usually they're like underwater levels where you're swimming around, dodging sharks, getting treasure. But there's one in particular I remember where you dive really low into a cave and it comes up into like a pirate hideout. There's a bunch of enemy pirates.
Whoa.
But you're like, you don't have any of your gear because you just think you're going to go for a little swim is all you're thinking. So you like have to get a weapon from them and you have to like fight them without any armor, any gear. And I thought this is so cool. There should be more levels like this.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I wonder if that was part of the inspiration for Eventide Island in Breath of the Wild, which is it's like the very far bottom right corner of the map. It's way out there. It's like way further away than anything else on water. And you get out there and it's a shrine challenge where all of your items are taken away and you are naked as the day you were born, and you gotta like start from scratch using only your skills and your survival thing. That I feel like that is almost an environment of its own, like the reset land. I can't think of a lot of instances. Tears of the Kingdom took that concept and built it. They replaced the shrine test of strength challenges from Breath of the Wild with like test of skill, where you lose all of your items. I mean, that's I don't know. That might be a bit of a stretch, but that's the only other thing I can think that uses that concept of this space is for being reset to your normal or to your base stats.
I believe once or twice that happens I think it happens in almost every Far Cry game, honestly. You get like halfway through the story and they're like, okay, now we're going to throw this on you. And for just a little while, they take away all your gear and you have to like find gear that's on the ground. And then eventually you get it all back. But Metal Gear, and I don't know if any of the other ones do this. I haven't played them all extensively. But I played a lot of 5, and I know that there are missions called subsistence missions, which are just missions you've already played, but you can't bring any gear into them. And there's only a few of them, and I'm upset that you can't play every mission like that, because it's so fun. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's very much like, okay, what am I without this gigantic, raging, flaming, screaming, poisoning sort of doom?
Yeah.
I would like to see more games do stuff like that. And it's interesting that it's tied, like, at least in Breath of the Wild and Black Flag, it's interesting that it's tied to a location.
Yeah.
I think that just feels, it's cool. It's cool. It's like, if you go here, you gotta figure it out on your own. And it's just another instance of like the environment being used to make you play in a different way than you normally would.
I think fundamentally that's probably where like roguelikes come from, right?
Oh,
Every run you start with nothing, or at least the bare minimum.
Yeah. Enter the Gungeon. That's kind of the whole premise of the thing is you go down and the Gungeon like resets you every time, and you're always starting from the same spot. I don't exactly remember like the lore of why you can die and come back, but it's a video game.
It's a video game about guns. So, yeah. Magic guns. Yeah. I know, roguelikes, Binding of Isaac, big one. Slay the Spire, you always start like with the bare minimum of your deck. I feel like that's fundamentally where those come from, is those types of scenarios.
Yeah, and it's definitely like a trend in games now where even if it's not a roguelike game, those elements are just so compelling that they've found themselves in other aspects of games.
So earlier you asked me what environment I'd want to live in, and I gave you my real answer, which is Minecraft.
Right.
Here's my fantastical answer. I'd love to live in Lothric Castle from Dark Souls 3, but like a chill Lothric. Not all the danger from Dark Souls 3, just a giant castle where every day I could walk for miles and see nothing but gray bricks and cool architecture. That's what I'd like to live in. That'd be cool as hell.
Looking up some pictures now.
It's like a city, but it's just a castle. It's one
God.
Giant castle.
That is amazing.
That's my fantastical choice.
Also, are you sure you're not a dragon or some kind of a suit of armor?
I might
living
be.
Suit of armor.
I might be.
Oh, man, this is really cool. Yeah, good answer. This looks amazing. I wanted to, before we completely get away from environment stuff, I kind of tried to initiate this with the Undertale, but what are some like cozy, comfortable places in games that even if they're not really providing anything, necessarily mechanical, they provide you as the player like a place to rest?
I got one spot for you.
All right.
Resident Evil 1, the save rooms. The save room music in the first Resident Evil, so good. You can just run into a save room. You know you're safe from all the zombies, all the big monsters out there. Even the like unkillable ones. You just run into a save room, you're good.
Okay, I've never played a Resident Evil game. CJ, this room looks horrible. This room looks terrifying. Well, I understand where you're coming from, but
in terms of being cozy, after being chased by zombies and almost dying and like seeing people die that you like, that's like the coziest room.
That's fair.
And I can throw on the save room music from Resident Evil 1 and be cozy and like fall asleep to it. It's so good.
Nice.
I think in order for a place to be considered cozy, it would have to. I think that's really tied to the music. The music has to be cozy for a place to be considered cozy. IMHO.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, no, I just Googled the RE1 save rooms. Yeah, those look like shit, but let me tell you,
Yeah, they look honestly terrifying.
the feelings I get going into those rooms, though, just warm, fuzzy, safe, so nice.
I think similar vibes, a game we played quite a bit of together, the van and Phasmophobia.
Yes.
A cold, silver, ugly moving van is the most cozy and comfortable place in the world after being chased by a little ghost boy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in that van in the game because I am a coward, it turns out.
Yeah. Yeah, that just if you ever get the chance to be the guy that stays in the van and watches the cameras, you're gonna take it, right? Because like it's
Yeah.
so nice and chill in there. You don't got to deal with all the crap happening out there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's something to be said about the place after the horror.
Yeah.
And in that vein, the lobby area in Phasmophobia is also really not cozy. Again, it's like kind of dank in there.
Right.
It's a big empty like storage room. They have some like a basketball and some Jenga tower for you to mess around with. But man, after getting the shit scared out of you and just being terrified, it feels really nice. And we spent a lot of time in there just like playing with the basketball physics and just goofing around, avoiding starting the next level.
Yep. Just throwing Jenga blocks at each is fun. It was a good time. Love that place. So you probably already defined it in the question, but define it again before I give my next answer. Define cozy.
Okay, just like a place that isn't not necessarily a warm, inviting place, but somewhere that's a respite for you as the player after anything, and it can be cozy. I think like design wise or music wise cozy. The house in Undertale, it is visibly cozy, but it's also the place you go after you've like done the tutorial and you've kind of started to see some weirdness going on. It's like, okay, I'm safe here. This is like a nice place for me to be, that I can just exist. All right, it is recording again for real this time.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Our audio cut out. I was about to say Sandover Village from Jak and Daxter 1 would definitely be my top pick for coziest places. For me personally, we tried to figure out what, in the cut, we tried to figure out what the name of it was. We think it's dynamic music, dynamic soundtrack, where you're walking around Sandover and it's this little drum beat that plays for you while you're walking around. And it's nice, it's chill. But you go to all these different villagers, and every single one of them has a different instrument that gets added to the music while you're in their house, and then taken out once you leave. It's so nice, and there's no loading screens either. Walking into a building,
nice,
you just walk in, it starts playing, you walk out, it's over. But you go there, and you get your quests from all these villagers. You go out, you do the hard work, and you come back, and they give you the power cell, which is the star or the jiggy, the collectible of that game. And that's my top one cozy place in video games.
I do remember Sandover Village. I do remember just being a nice place. Like you love a little beach town.
Yes.
You love just a nice place by the sea. I think you can overlook some cliffs. I don't remember the music stuff, but I probably was playing with like low audio at the time.
I see. I didn't realize it until playing it much later in life. But yeah, it's really great, really good.
Yeah. as a freak who cannot stop talking about Pokemon, I would be remiss not to mention Pokemon Centers. It's just super cozy, in a weird way. Like, at least in a lot of the early games, they're not explicitly cozy in design, but they're just a third place where you can be. There's no stress. You go and you heal up your Pokemon. It's instant. You go there to swap out your team. You talk to the people who are in the area. They'll usually like give you hints about where you need to go next. You can view the town map. That's where you go to do trades. It's just like this hub. And after a big battle where you like barely scrape through, and then you go back to the Pokemon Center, it's that breath of fresh air. It's that relief of, okay, yeah, I actually did this. It's okay. we made it through.
Yes.
And I think in some of the later games, I've been playing through Sun and Moon, they really lean into that like cozy feeling. So you'll have the Pokemon Center itself, and then the mart, and you do your shopping, and then they have a little coffee bar you can go up to. And you get a coffee or a lemonade or a milk or whatever it is, and that's basically like a potion or a super potion in effect that gets added to your inventory. But there's this nice little coffee guy, and he talks to you while he's making the thing. And it's like, oh, this is my aromatic roserade tea, and I go and pick the leaves fresh every morning, and I let it stew, and I just love Pokemon. And have you thought about going behind the center to see if there's a treasure back there or something? I don't know. Anyway, here's your coffee, and here's some beans for your Pokemon that you can feed them in the Pokemon refresh mechanic where you like pet your guys.
That's amazing, because I don't know if they have them here, but they have this place called the Human Bean out in Arizona that and probably California. I haven't seen any. I hadn't been out there yet. But they give you a coffee, and with your coffee they give you a chocolate covered coffee bean.
Oh yeah.
So I can't help but wonder if that's like a normal thing.
Yeah, I believe that. It's pretty cool.
But as a frequenter of chill coffee places in real life, I see you, Nintendo. I see you, Nintendo. They got that coffee shop you're talking about there, but they also have these amazing coffee shops in Origami King, the new Paper Mario game. They're like hidden. I don't know if they were in previous ones, but in Paper Mario Origami King, there's like these hidden coffee shops you can find, and you get like a little cutscene with some of the, like, there could be like a Goomba or a Koopa in there, and they're not trying to kill you. They're just there drinking coffee after a hard day's work with you. You get a little cutscene with them.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I love a coffee shop. I love the vibes. I'm looking up some pictures of this now.
Yeah, they're so good. There's like I don't know if it's in every level, but in every part of the world you could find like these hidden coffee shops hidden in places. They're so cool.
Oh man.
But not only that, like Animal Crossing had the Brewster's Cafe. I see you, Nintendo.
I did not play much of that game, but I have watched, and I'm like, man, who is this guy? Who is this Brewster guy? He seems so nice, but like I feel like something bad has happened to him at some point in his life. He's got a dark secret in there and is hiding. I don't know, like somebody broke his heart real bad, and he's just out here making coffee, and that adds to it. I need my barista to be sad for me to truly enjoy my coffee, is what I'm saying.
But yeah, good on you, Nintendo, for putting one of my favorite places to go in the real world into video games too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of all I wanted to talk about for environment stuff. Just thinking about systems and how they relate to the places that are associated with them, and how like the landscape that you're in is sort of a mechanic in and of itself. Yeah. I think that's the show for the day. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
More Slay the Spire to come.
Definitely. hate those bears.
Damn you, ink bottle.